Hi everyone, I'm Sheridan McCrae. Thanks for joining me and welcome to my webinar about communicating inexpensively as NGOs in developing countries. So you're part of a small organization, probably with a limited budget, but you also want to be effective at reaching people. Before we get into the details, I wanted to give some context for why I'm enthusiastic about this topic. Okay, there's a photo of me on the right. That's a few years back in central Tanzania. Originally from Australia, I've been living here in the US for the last 5 years. Before that, I found myself in Europe, the Middle East, and East and Southern Africa, where I worked in communities on health education programs. Fast forward a few years, and I'm doing a master's in strategic communications at Georgetown University. I love using photography and video to deliver messages. As a fellow at the Center for Social Impact Communications, I'm working on a storytelling initiative about using those tools effectively. I'm also a course consultant with a DC-based nonprofit called Potomac Riverkeepers, and I'm helping to develop their messages. So I'm hoping this webinar can offer you some insights into the big and the small issues when trying to deliver your messages to different audiences, both locally and globally. So let's get started. After this webinar, I hope that you'll understand the importance of targeting audiences and tailoring your communications, the types of content to share online, maximizing your internet time, new ways to use mobile phones, and that you'll know where to find low-cost tools to develop your communication capacities. Now, the topics we'll discuss today apply to charities and NGOs, but many of the resources refer to these organizations as nonprofits, which is a common term in the US. So I'll try to use that to be consistent. First, I want to reinforce the value of low-tech basic communication principles. These often get overlooked as we're eager to communicate about urgent issues like clean water or improving agriculture. Now, you already know it's important to use your resources efficiently and effectively, but how can you actually do this best? The key is focused, strategic communications. This means targeting exactly who you're trying to reach and tailoring your materials to make them personal and relevant to that target audience. Now, there's two reasons why this is so critical. These days, people are bombarded with so many messages about various issues. For example, in the US, believe it or not, the average person is exposed to about 3,000 marketing messages every day. So your message needs to be special to make it through all that clutter. And it needs to have a simple, clear call to action. What specifically are you asking them to do? Now, being efficient means avoiding wasted efforts. You've probably seen when groups do a mass distribution of flyers or a newsletter to hundreds or even thousands in a community. Only a small percentage read it and find it relevant enough to act. Now that's a lot of effort for a little impact. So don't make your communication decisions based on what you've done previously or just because other organizations do it. So how do you target and tailor your communication efforts? Firstly, it's crucial to narrow down your aim. Who are the groups you must reach to make the greatest impact? Is it the mothers who decide what's cooked each night? Or is it journalists who create public pressure or politicians? There's many others, but there's a few examples. Now, in terms of delivering your messages, there are two key types of people. Connectors are those people in the community who naturally seem to know lots of people. And influencers are those who other people tend to listen to. These individuals usually make up about 10 to 15% of most populations. So find them in your communities as they're your best way to reach many people. For suitable delivery methods, think about where does your target audience get their information? Who do they respect and who do they listen to? Lastly, what messages will appeal to their priorities? What could compel them to act? I recommend checking out a book called Made to Stick that explains what makes a message stick in people's minds. It will provide you some tips to create messages that are understandable and memorable. Now, also there'll be a slide at the end of this webinar with the resources discussed, and the accompanying blog also has some direct links. In the next few slides, we'll explore these 4 key resources for high impact, low cost communication. We'll start with grassroots activities. By this, I mean Indigenous methods like folk songs, talking drums, dramas, festivals, town criers, and even arts and crafts. Fortunately, some communication staff recognize these are highly effective, less expensive ways of spreading information, especially in rural areas. When we incorporate modern communication technology with these people to people methods, it has the potential to amplify the reach and impact. Now, let's talk about the internet as a tool. In Africa and other developing countries, accessing the internet can definitely be a challenge, especially in rural and remote areas. I can recall many times when I've travelled from a small village into town hoping to use the internet, only to find that the one and only cafe was closed day after day due to signal problems somewhere. So recognise that the technology communications landscape in Africa is unique. While there are fewer computers in the population compared to other countries, the use of mobile phone is quite widespread and is rapidly increasing. So make sure you incorporate this into your strategy, like make your communications readable on phones. Now, you might also want to reach international audiences by internet. In terms of reaching this audience, there are many factors to understand before you can successfully engage them. I'll provide a resource at the end that'll teach you about what motivates potential supporters from each region and how you can interact with them. Most nonprofits will benefit from having a website. Now, in terms of credibility, keep in mind that potential partners and funders will check your website to judge your projects. Fortunately, there's many options to build your own website for free, and you don't need web expertise. So take a look at WordPress and Google sites. Social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter can definitely increase the exposure of your organization, especially the harder to reach international audiences. However, it does need a time investment to use it effectively. As an example, it's not enough simply to make a Facebook page and assume people will find you. Learning about social media could be a webinar all of its own, so we're not going to cover it today, but I have provided some resources at the end to get you started. Crowdsourcing is mostly known for raising funds from unknown donors who like a project's mission. Some common fundraising sites are CrowdRise, Kickstarter, and Indiegogo. But it's also a great source of ideas. Using feedback from other people with diverse backgrounds can provide your solutions faster and strengthen your work. Now, one example of crowdsourcing is Global Giving. This is a great website that connects grassroots charity projects from around the world with individuals who want to help that project succeed. Now, talking of online, what should you share online? Well, storytelling is a very powerful way to share or to show other people the issues in your community and how your program is successfully responding. The key is to show your impact. Do it through compelling stories about individual people. This is a rapidly gaining popular tool, but it can be challenging to do it effectively. The basics include creating a catalogue of high-quality photos and videos. I'd consider hiring a local photojournalist to do this. This is because professional quality images do make more impact. Also, check out Photo Philanthropy. This website matches nonprofit organizations with expert photographers who want to donate their time. Now, I'm quite involved in this topic, but we won't be covering it in detail today. So I provided some resources, like the document you can see there to your left, called Communicating via Imagery. The references are in the blog that should get you started. Now, adding a blog section to your website is an easy and quick way to add progress updates for your supporter to see. Okay, now we'll take a look at infographics. Using data is another way to sell a story about a situation, to tell a story about a situation. But straight statistics don't appeal to many audiences. Most people can absorb concepts much easier if we can simplify data into symbols and diagrams. Plus, it reduces the need for higher literacy levels. Here, you can see two different examples. In just one page, each is able to express a complex problem, its impact, and the key solutions. Fortunately, there are many opportunities for nonprofits to use free software to improve their productivity in communications. We've already mentioned WordPress for websites and blogs, and Facebook and Twitter for getting messages quickly to your supporters. Also be sure to check out PayPal, which does secure financial transactions like donations. Also YouTube where you can set up a channel and people can watch all your video stories about your community and your projects. By having a Gmail account, you can get access to programs like Google Drive, which gives you the ability to share things like calendars and documents between your staff. They can also edit these when they're away from the office. Google translates text in 50 different languages, and Google Sites is great for setting up websites. Now to our final low-cost resource. Given the limits of internet access, many organizations are incorporating mobile phones into their communication methods. We'll take a look at a couple of organizations that are expanding the use of mobile phones. First off is SMS Frontline, or Frontline SMS, I should say, which is a program for a text messaging system. It's uniquely equipped to serve remote areas because it doesn't use the internet. It only needs a laptop or a desktop computer, a mobile phone, and a cable. And the software is free. Because it uses a local SIM card, it can be set up quickly and easily in any country. And importantly, it does not require high levels of expertise. So you send messages from your computer to various groups that you've set up. And the people who receive those text messages can also reply back. The Frontline SMS website demonstrates examples of many grassroots organizations, mainly in Africa, who use it successfully for things like conducting public surveys, education and monitoring in the health sector, coordinating self-help groups, facilitating payments to farmers, that sort of thing. Next, we'll take a look at mobile phones being used as reporting tools for disease outbreaks in Botswana and Kenya. A Botswana-based nonprofit called Positive Innovation for Next Generation worked with the Clinton Health Access Initiative and launched a program that trained healthcare workers to use a mobile phone application to collect malaria data and report outbreaks to authorities. That process takes about 3 minutes compared to the previous 3 to 4 weeks. The malaria statistics are then mapped to show potential disease transmissions, and healthcare workers can be dispatched before an outbreak occurs. During 2012, 2 international organizations launched educational games to be played on mobile phones. These were created through partnerships with local nonprofits in Kenya, Tanzania, and India. The casual games aim to teach about worm infections in kids, women's health, equality issues, and entrepreneurial business skills. Their potential use could be in school curriculums, health clinics, and women's self-help groups. The games are free to download and can be used on non-smartphones. Now, I'm not suggesting that nonprofits try to develop their own mobile games. This is quite expensive. But do think about integrating these types of available games into your programs, and also keep open to opportunities for partnerships, as this type of mobile education is likely to increase in the future. Many of the ideas in this webinar require accessing the internet. You'll need to weigh up this reality for your organization, but I'd encourage investing some time to explore the websites, the software, and the how-to guides that we've talked about. Also, I realize that not every nonprofit can afford computer technologies in their office, especially when software and equipment gets outdated so quickly these days. However, this doesn't have to limit your use of technology. Think about sharing resources. You could work out a partnership with a larger organization and pay to use their internet facilities for a scheduled block of time. And it helps to prepare your content before you start. You can pre-type things like email responses, social media updates, and your website blog so that you can save critical time when you're paying to be online. That's the end of the general tips for the webinar. When working on a small budget, the key communication takeaways today, regardless of the technologies that you use, are: know your audiences well. What motivates them? What communication channels do they use? Who are the credible sources they listen to? So don't try to reach everyone with the same message. Learn how to make your messages stand out and stick in people's minds. Consider how to include internet and mobile phones in your programs. Be strategic. Have clear reasons for using specific methods, not just because other organizations do it. Learn how to use compelling stories. And seek out and use the many free resources to build your organization's communication capacity. Okay, if you'd like to continue the conversation, you can find me at these locations. Thanks very much for listening, and very best of success to you and your program. Now, I'll leave you with a list of resources discussed today, and I hope this helps you find what you need.